Hello. Welcome to Taste Like Tea, a badly titled podcast where T, talk about things I like. I guess the first episode was things I don't like. Jesus Christ. I just recorded it. You know, if you listened to the last recording, you would have heard me say that I might just press re-record. Here I am. I don't know how, time works, and I don't know when things happen. I could tell you if it happened, pre or post 9/11. That's pretty easy. But other than that, I don't really know. Did I say it already? This is a podcast where I talk about myself and the things I like. Because I had a friend tell me that I recommend movies well. That at that point, it was a show. I recommended him Mr. Mercedes, one of the best, television dramas ever. The shit was good. Stephen King, probably one of the best Stephen King adaptations, easily. It's such a great experience. But exactly that is I recommend things because I see a lot of things. I watch a lot of movies. Until it changes, I have been watching at least one film every day for closing in on 2 years now. And I don't have enough friends, people to tell outgoingness to communicate my passions consistently enough to feel satisfied about the things I consume. Although I've been kind of coming to the idea that I don't necessarily love the word consume, but as a gluttonous person, as I am, as my first tattoo entails, maybe consume is the right word. So things I like, right? I watch a lot of movies, so I like movies, so this is probably going to be talking a lot about movies. I just spoke about how much I do not like the Purge films. Which was so out of pocket. I should not have done a hate mail for my first post. So how about I talk about the Disney Channel original movie Pixel Perfect from 2004. Also, you might hear this noise. I'm sorry. I have a spinner. I pick at my face, and instead of enduring bald spots and acne, which I still do because I still pick sometimes, I have a spinner. Here. It's as old as the concept. I bought this when the first wave of spinners became popular, before 5-year-olds were getting cakes made of them. So I'm sorry that you hear it. I hate that it's loud. I should get a quieter one. Pixel Perfect from 2004. Jesus Christ. Maybe this is how I should do it. Maybe I should just blindly scroll my diary and just go like, oh, that's a fucking movie. Because Pixel Perfect is a fucking movie. It's about a kid, right? So we got this kid. I don't know his name. Howdy, Huey, Roscoe. We got Roscoe, the nerd kid, right? And his best friend, Leah Pipes, or, as their character is known as, Samantha. And see, Roscoe, his dad is a mega scientist. He's kind of like the dad, oh God, Jesus Christ. It's the Chimera dad from Full Metal Alchemist. Is kind of what the dad is. If he wasn't willing to sacrifice, he sacrificed his marriage for a career in science. Like, quite literally. That is why he's divorced, I'm pretty sure, is because he focused on work. And his work was hologram beings. Holographic. What's holographic mean? Holograms. He has his hologram machine, and this kid, Roscoe, his son, just happens to know how to code them perfectly. He has like a pet cat that kills itself like once a week by jumping out a window. It's crazy. Then Samantha, who is in a band, right? She's the lead singer of a 2004 post 9/11 14-year-old teen-led pop punk band. And they're auditioning to play at like the school dance or something. But the adult man who's watching these children perform on stage says, and I'm not going to quote him directly, but I will say that he was basically saying, "You're not being provocative enough." He said, "You're too stiff. No one wants to look at you." And so there it is. You know, the band is done. The This isn't how it's supposed to go. Not the movie. The movie I'm telling, pitch perfectly, like on the nose. But I think I'm telling too on the nose because that was the reason of why I was hesitant. Look at this. A little sidestep real quick. This is what I was worried about with doing a spoken podcast about recommending things. I'm not going to go down a list. And like when he told me to do that, he said, like, yeah, you just give quick and easy synapses. You you say what it is. You say what it's about loosely enough to not spoil it. And here I am. I'm telling, like, that's where I get confused. Because, like, I'm not going to make a 5-minute podcast where I just be like, yeah, man, Pixel Perfect was a weird-ass movie, and it's got holograms and kind of the implication of sex work, even though it's about children. But it's really interesting because it's technically a pro-AI film before the concept of a pro-AI film existed. That's actually kind of good. See, and then I would just end the episode. And at that point, I'll just write a 5-word review on the internet. Right? Which I already do. But it's 5 paragraphs. And, like, Daryl Phibbs. Jesus Christ. It's hard to... Because either I go into high detail mode, where I'm kind of just hitting it beat at beat, like beat after beat, and just, like, building the movie back as well as I can in my head. Or I can just leave it there and make you wonder, like, I mean, the guy who produced both Camp Rock and Smart House produced this film. Or wrote it? Maybe wrote it. Maybe I should confirm things before I fucking say anything like that. I'm pretty sure, yeah, the writers of Goosebumps and Thrashin'. No, I'm pretty sure it's the producer. Yeah, he did Luck of the Irish, Pixel Perfect, High School Musical, Halloween Town High. Oh, didn't do the ones I was just saying. Smart House. I thought he did Smart House. Double Teamed. Jesus fucking Christ, Disney. Oh my God. The early 2000s was a wasteland of the weirdest, like, double entendre, like, sex jokes for children. And maybe it still goes on now and I just don't see it. I don't watch cartoons anymore, or at least I don't, like, watch kids, like, modern children's programming. I'll watch SpongeBob, Fairly Odd Parents, or, like, I just finished watching Avatar The Last Airbender, which is good, believe it or not. But Double Teamed? A basketball movie about twin blonde girls? Possibly being told that women can't play sports, but it's probably more about them being twins and them doing some sort of mind game where a kid goes, when, when he sees them. Pixel Perfect, though. Yeah, I mean, so Samantha isn't... God, I'm just going to do it, I guess, right? Samantha is not eccentric enough. I think that's the right word to use there. Eccentric. I'm bad at speaking. I didn't actually learn the English language until post 9/11, which is why it's kind of the fulcrum of my knowledge. Fulcrum, Jesus Christ. Pixel Perfect. Samantha's not a good lead for the band. She's a good guitar player, but she doesn't have the chops to be a lead singer. Lead singers are... I'm not even going to describe what lead singers are, because I was going to use some words I shouldn't be using to describe children. Even though I wouldn't be describing children directly, I just don't want to do it. Not a fan. But so, what's his name? Maurice? Roscoe. Why am I stuck on Maurice? Roscoe, with his hologram mastery skills, invents a human being to be that band's lead singer. And I mean, that's it, right? I would say it's a goofy, dumb movie, but post Her, the Joaquin Phoenix film, not well, I don't know what else it could be, but I feel like just saying the word Her doesn't get across very well. But, like, post that, and probably post other things. I mean, iRobot just came out, or it's about to come out, around the release of Pixel Perfect. I mean, like people were aware of... I'm talking about two completely different things at the same time. How's that? So Roscoe makes a hologram girl to be the lead singer of the band. And she's great. She does backflips and opens her legs to the crowd, and has blonde hair and is okay with being useful in the most objectifying way possible. And she's perfect, She does everything she needs to. Why? Because Roscoe didn't just create her. He outright is her. And not in like a Norman Bates kind of way where he gets his own perception of things confused with like who's who. But he has a little laptop, kind of like the not the UAV, but like the airstrike fucking computer from Call of Duty. Of course, I don't know the name now that I tried to pull it, but it's like a little laptop where he controls everything that this hologram girl says or does. So even though this is a separate entity that he refers to as a her, and humanizes almost immediately, as well as falls in love with her, because this is a movie about a perfect girl in the eyes of a person. Yeah? and perfection, as that one annoying kid in the break room was talking about, referencing the Courage the Cowardly Dog episode with the ugly fish, is that perfection is not perfect. There's no such thing, and if there is the perception of perfection, it is flawed. So, he falls in love with this hologram, and so does other kids. And the problem is, actually, I don't really know exactly what the problem is. Roscoe lets the cool kids, or at least one of the jocks or whatever, interact with her and actually accepts a date from this guy. Actively allows this hologram girl that he is playing as to go on a date with some creep dude with a basketball. And I don't get it. Oh wait, do I not get it? What was I talking about? Roscoe, Pixel Perfect, falling in love with the robot. Samantha, as many lead Tom girls in Disney movies, is in love with the goofy protagonist that doesn't know that she's in love with him. And technically, if you were, I don't know, unhoned in the idea of... Because I think if I was a kid, I wouldn't have seen it. Because it's just kind of told through looks and awkward interactions that I simply don't understand. Like a person going, "Oh, okay." Wouldn't have come off as "Oh, she felt something's wrong." It would have just been "Oh, she said okay." Face value, quick and easy. It's what I was doing. But yeah, so Samantha needs a lead singer. Roscoe supplies a lead singer himself as a blonde girl that he falls in love with and then completely forgets about the human girl and the family around him, which is another interesting fact, the alienation of interacting with I don't want to say cognizant or cognitive, because I think that's about motor skills. But I also don't want to use the word conscious either. But there's this, it's again something that's happening now, 22 years after this film came out, which I've been listening to so many people say that science fiction should not ever be seen as prophetic. It's never about it telling the future as much as reflecting the past and the current. So obviously the idea was there, and it was a problem. Probably because technology in general. I mean, it's easy to see someone staring at a screen as being completely brain dead. And I mean, nowadays, if I stare at a screen for so long, I might as well be brain dead. But it's a different kind of thing that they think they're talking about, because this film looks at... Have you ever seen that Futurama episode? God, I'm so basic. I listen to a podcast and they're like, "Yeah, I heard about the most obscure film that ever existed," and it just reminded me of the second most obscure film that ever existed. But with me, I'm pulling Futurama. So remember that episode of Futurama where now I gotta remember what I'm talking about. Fry falls in love with Lucy Liu. robot. And they have that whole, like, 19... I think a guy just hit my car. Sorry, I need to regather my thoughts now. The episode of Futurama where Fry falls in love with the Lucy Glue robot. And they have that 1950s, like, what would that be called? It's what Reefer Madness was, like fear propaganda about the dangers of sexy robots. And that the main concern with that concept, well, I guess there's two halves to the concern. They're kind of the same problem, but they're kind of the two problems that emerge from the problem of over relying on artificial life as companionship. Maybe that's the best way to put that. But so there's the, as I said, alienation, which I don't fully grasp that term. I guess it's just literally just changing your mind, and, like, in a bad way, influencing. But he recedes from life, right? He the only thing he wants to do is make out with his Lucy Liu robot. The only thing, because it's so good. I'm trying not to get too deep into it because this is all technology in general. This is the idea of reliance and like the separation with the internet and all of it. It's receding into your room, not wanting to talk to your parents because all you want to do is look at porn. It's... And then the other part of it, other than being receded from society and becoming a recluse as a result of the only interaction you're having, which you find to be satisfying, is artificial and thus ingenuine, maybe is the right word. But then there's also the reproduction problem. And that's kind of a thing that's kind of like the oldest problem with it. And it's kind of the same argument that, like, people had with, like, it's exactly what Frank Herbert says about gay people. It's willingly relinquishing your right to reproduce. In the act of not having sex with the opposite, sex, organs or whatever. If you're not having sex to reproduce, you're doing a disservice to humanity. That's probably the most civil way I can put it, without saying, like, them gays, But, like, I mean, Frank Herbert spent like 10 minutes talking about it at, like, UCLA. There's a video on YouTube of him just being like, yeah, man. And then people are replying to him like, so what about the weird representation of like, lesbians? And he's like, oh, well, like, I'm not going to get into Frank Herbert, but he has had opinions in the past that aren't good. Pixel Perfect, though. Where am I going? How did I get to Dune? How did I get to Frank Herbert from Pixel Perfect? Oh, right, because the act of submitting yourself to the pleasures of technology is equivalent to ending the human race because you're not doing your part to continue the race. You're being selfish by fulfilling material urges. I'm really like trudging through this sentence, I know. And I just lost it by cutting myself off. But that's it, right? Like, those are really solid concepts. I get it. You know, like, they are very genuine things to consider. And it's just those exact things. Wait, hold on. Hold on. Because I remember saying the words, this is exactly what's happening now. And that's not what's happening right now. I mean, it is. Or is that what I'm talking about? Jesus Christ. Start a podcast, he said. I should make it really long, he said. I said. And it's all just silences and me going, What's his name? Milo? Roscoe? Roscoe. I gotta think ice cream for some reason because that's how I get to Roscoe. Roscoe is completely separated from his real life. He's only talking to his robot. Her name's Loretta, by the way. He names her Loretta Modern, which is fucking weird. And all he does is talk to her, you know, the classic, like, kid who can't stop falling in love with his ChatGPT girlfriend. Or there's like a scene where he tells his dad to fuck off. And he's actively hiding her. What's happening right now? Yeah, I mean I guess that is something that's happening right now. I'm dismissing it as if it's like an old concept because I saw it on, because I'm referencing something Frank Herbert said in like 1986 or whatever. But that is a problem that this film talks about. It just doesn't focus on it in a way that, at least as a 2026 viewer, it isn't talked about. I don't want to say correctly, because they're two completely different concerns, but they span from the same problem, which is people are becoming too reliant on technology to feel social. It's again, not again, I haven't said it yet, but it's kind of like that thing I've heard people say where the internet connects everybody, but it's never, I've never felt more isolated or whatever. It's the most isolating time, even though we're all connected the most. I'm sitting in a car, sorry. Trying to stay comfortable and warm. I didn't want to turn the car on, one, because it's loud, and two, because my phone keeps auto-connecting to it, and I didn't want to make a podcast through my car's microphone. No, I can't turn it off. So he falls in love with the girl robot, Loretta. And then another thing that happens. This is kind of the main thing. I think I'm focusing on the other stuff because the idea of making a robot that you can control through a remote control that is a child that says and does anything that it can access through the internet, it's a scary concept as an adult that knows where technology ends up, which is porn. Every innovation in the world, if it could be applied to, sexual pleasure in some way, it does. It gets done. And if the first hologram that can be controlled by a person is a child girl, that can be also contained, like put into a jar, and put her in a backpack, take her home. You can trap her in there. But now I'm saying her, right? Because eventually she does become, as many, self-learning robots in fiction do, they become self-learned enough that they do develop at least a sense of consciousness. I don't think I can't say I'll ever, but the idea of it unlocking consciousness through that is not correct to me. I also forgot what I was talking about again. Yeah, so, like, I hate that. So, like, 30 minutes into a podcast, I've said so, like, 30 million times. Yeah, clear my tires, Jesus Christ. So the other problem, outside of people being addicted to talking to robots, is music. And this covers a lot of stuff, like in little bits. Like, it's not hashtag deep. It's not a term paper on the ethics of music and the generative skills of intelligent technology. But first it starts off. So, I mean, obviously the movie is about a robot lead singer of a band. I keep saying robot, it's easier. She's a hologram controlled by a human being. I'm not saying that every time. She's a robot. And she creates music. Well, she plays music because the music's already written. It's already stuff that Samantha wrote. It's her songs. But then, at some point, maybe halfway, 2/3 through the movie, she rolls up, what the fuck is her name? Is Loretta? Loretta rolls up to Roscoe and is like, I wrote a song. And he's so enthralled with her because at this point, he's making his his dreams come true in the least moral way possible. And he doesn't care because he sees her as a person, and even though he can do whatever he wants to her, he just can't stop being okay with her. So he hears her writing a song and goes, that's fucking awesome. It's going to be good. Guaranteed it's going to be good. A few scenes later, she hands him a piece of paper, and he's like, what the fuck is this? Like, this is just... It's just the chorus line of every popular song in the last 2 years. And she said, yeah, that's a good song. Because I took it all from the top lists. He says, you can't just copy songs off the internet and make them your own. And without any hesitation, she goes, isn't that what you did with me? Because, backtracking a little bit, she is coded to be... She's like resembles the looks of models in magazines and pictures of people he found on the internet. And he says, at least I recall him saying, it's like, it's not the same thing. And I wonder, is it not the same thing? is skinning a robot that you control to resemble your favorite features of everybody that you like to look at, is that the same as not pirating, stealing lyrics from a song? I mean, it's kind of fucked to put them up against each other now that I think about it, because, I mean, one is kind of just about creativity, while the other one is about kind of, I mean, in the sense of this movie, he's picking out the hottest girls and putting them all together. So I guess it's kind of just supporting the whole, like, male needs perfection thing or whatever. You know, I'm saying all this stuff, and maybe I'm not thinking through it well enough because I'm so scatterbrained, and I've been talking about a Disney Channel original TV movie for 37 minutes. Why? Is why where I was going with that? Alright, maybe I should just skip it, because I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about now. Maybe I'll come back. Maybe my brain will pop back into action. But back to the music thing, right? So without comparing it to the copying of a person and objectification or whatever, this robot is trying to make music, and a record company is like, we want to sign her, and they're like, oops, sorry, she's not human. And the corporation, the record label, immediately goes, oh, so she's property that can be bought. And they go to the kid's father and just buy her. They outright buy her. They buy, granted it's just code, at least that's how the suits talk through it, but they buy this girl to literally, like, they don't hide the idea. They're like, we're gonna milk her dry, I think are the words they say. If not, they basically say it. They're like, we're gonna use this girl to make so much money, and because she's an object, she doesn't need to be paid. She could just be put back in her jar. And that's some crazy shit, to be honest. Like even me saying it now, these pauses aren't me not knowing what to say. It's me thinking about the things I'm saying and kind of being flabbergasted again, almost as much as I was when I first watched it. Like, it's crazy. A room full, or this is actually kind of pretty real as fuck. A room full of adults talking about the fate of a child, and they tell the child, you should probably step outside, this doesn't concern you. I'm pretty sure that's a thing that happened. They're like, the fate of your existence and what's done with it is completely up to us, and you have no right to even know what that is until it's decided. It's a lot of, it's like an 89-minute, it's a 90-minute movie on the dot. And I know I was able to drag this out for 40 minutes, but like, it really is a lot. There's a lot going on in this movie for just being a kids movie about, like, yeah, what if holograms could play music? It's now, because time passed and because of the year I watched it in, I can't not think about it in this way of, like, connecting it to child trafficking and the generative AI with music and just the outright, like, objectification of children. And it's crazy and that Disney made it. And, like, I'm not gonna point fingers because I'm very uneducated and I don't fucking, like, I gave up social media, so I've kind of given up the news too. I don't think Disney has any right to, like, speak up against any of this, you know? Like, they didn't have Dan Schneider, no, but, like, they exist. Disney exists, and the track record of children making their way out of the Disney business and into adulthood is not fantastic. It's weird. And it makes me kind of really appreciate it in a sense. Like, I see why a few of my friends on Letterboxd are teetering on, like, this being an amazing movie. Like, I know the people I'm talking about generally are very generous with their ratings to begin with. Or maybe I see it that way and I just, you know, maybe I just don't always try and watch things that I think are going to be 5 stars. But this movie's, like, it's got a lot to think about as an adult. And I wonder if I could have considered these things as a kid, because I mean, I remember watching iRobot in middle school and kind of having similar thoughts about, but not modern thoughts, not exact, kind of the blurred line that this movie has where it's accidentally talking about relevant stuff, but not in the way that it intended to. Because it's technically not about it, because the concept wasn't there yet. So this movie is kind of teetering on the question of, like, can robots be sentient? And if robots become sentient, do they deserve to be human? Or do they deserve to be seen as people? And, like, that does kind of resonate now, because after that Chris Pratt movie coming out, where I hear the last line is like, human and AI, we both make mistakes, we're not perfect, or something like that. I didn't watch it, but it's I've been told and read that it is very much a pro AI film. And this film doesn't know it, but it kind of is. But it's also having me raise these questions, so maybe it's not. Maybe I'm pushing things onto it because of how many questions it's having me raise, and how incoherently I can relay them. Because thinking back, I don't know how much I actually said in the last 45 minutes. Like, how much did I actually talk through? I think my little 2-sentence summary demolished the detail that I put into the rest of this rant. That's not how it ends, though, right? So, like, the music industry being unnervingly threatened by generative AI creating what computers tell it to be perfect music or whatever. Sorry, there's a fire truck. But it doesn't end there, because right before the child is purchased, the guy who set up the sale gains a little insight into the ethics of selling a being that might think. And he poses a question to her. He says, like, because he asks her, what does she want to do? And she says, I want to perform. I was created to perform, and I want to perform. And if that's what she wants, which, at this point she's allowed to want stuff. I guess she was always allowed to want stuff. It was more like people didn't see her as being allowed to want stuff, which again it might not be a perfect allegory, but it's also the child actor thing that is an issue. But he asks her what she wants to do, and she says she wants to perform, and he gives her a choice. Like, you can stay and be purchased and be property, and your entire existence will be performance, and you will probably love it, but you will be enslaved. Like, your existence will be slavery. That's really what it is. Like they're sending out what's seemingly a conscious being at this point to perform for people, not get compensated, and then recaged, ready to send out for the next performance to make more money, not for them. Jeez, I need to end this quick. So, she says the words that she wants to perform, but curveball, she doesn't. She decides to be free, and she gets uploaded to the internet, which I forgot to mention. She learns how to do, and it's kind of a problem. That's another thing I forgot to mention. It's kind of like Am from I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, because he gains access to the internet and figures out how to plant himself across the world and, take over. Similar to Transcendence with Johnny Depp, too. I think he does that. But that's a little bit more about transferring consciousness than about, like, AI specifically. Oh, right. So, the band, Samantha's band, the one that, the whole reason this Loretta girl exists, doesn't have a lead singer anymore. So Samantha, what does she do? She has to go back to being the lead singer. Puts on a blonde wig and pretends to be Loretta. Because clearly everyone's there to see the band for Loretta. Except Samantha can't do backflips. And she backflips herself into a coma, which sends her to the hospital, which is where Loretta shows up for a final moment and injects herself into Samantha's brain to reactivate her consciousness. And then the craziest shit happens, because I don't know how to really work through this part, but Samantha and Loretta, they don't fuse consciousnesses. They become separate consciousnesses. Consciousnesses? They're separate people sharing the same body. So now we're in fucking split territory with dissociation disorder, or whatever the modern multiple personality disorder is called. And I think they imply that Loretta doesn't stay in Samantha's body. I think there's like a moment where she like jumps out of her body at the very, very end and disappears into obscurity. But it was very much two people in one body, and it was scary because she woke up as Loretta, and the mom is like, "Where's my daughter?" Like this woman saw her child almost break her neck, and then the next thing she does is wake up as the consciousness of another person who just injected themselves into a fucking IV machine or whatever. It's crazy. It's really crazy. And to think that Disney did this, that's the other big curveball. Like 2004 really was the Wild West of children's entertainment. It was the Wild West of a lot of things, including, YouTube and the internet. I know YouTube didn't exist till 2006, but the internet. But children's entertainment is absolutely scary at times. And this is one of them. Just thinking about that, though. Like, yeah, there's like a little scene in her brain where she's like, oh, you're just sad and we need to wake you up. She's not actually British. It's so bizarre. Do I recommend it? Honestly, yeah. I do recommend it. Even if you don't get these weird questions out of it, I still think as a modern viewer, there's more to it than what Disney Channel intended on it being in 2004. There's a reason I was able to spend 52 minutes with a lot of, gaps in between of me not talking and going, and talking about me going, It's just cool, I guess. I guess cool is the word. It makes you think. It made me think. Talking about it, I definitely consider giving it a higher score, but I know I got a little bored. I gave this a 3 out of 10. 6 out of 10. 3 out of 5. Jesus Christ. But I liked it. I mean, it's fucked, and it's a weird, cheesy TV children's movie, but, I need to figure out what kind of comedy I like, because it's seemingly children's comedy. It's anytime I like something funny, it's usually something for children. But that's about it. I am not going to immediately record something after this because I have to turn the car on, get warm, and drive my partner home. But Jason, assuming you made it through all of this kind of garbage to hear about a Disney movie, to all you Jasons out there, Jesus Christ, I can't believe I just said that. I almost want to delete the whole episode because of that. Holy shit. Right at the end. Anyway, did I have something fun? Let me pull a quote. Let me pull some dumbass quote out of my notebook of books I read. And that's what I'll end it on. Not always, but right now. Could be something I wrote, could be a quote from a book I wrote. Let's see. Oh, I don't know why I just decided to do this. Are you dumb?